This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post coming to you from the Fort Holt School of Government in Nairobi, Kenya. In this show, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 15th of June 2022 and I am Miss K.
I am JM.
And I am GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, in 100 days. In the Standard, the battles within RUTO camps. In the Star, Kalonzo refers to Huru case in Sonko defense and other stories. And People Daily, most costly campaigns. Mrs. K.
When a president comes into office, they are idealistic, hopeful, and unedited by experience. Their approval rating is high and their experience is low. But when a president leaves office, they are pessimistic, cynical realists. Their approval ratings are low and their experience is high. So many will use the first 100 days of either Raila or Ruto's terms to evaluate their performance. And both men, according to the Daily Nation, are painting a rosy picture of what they will do for us once they take office. The question is this: why 100 days, not 6 months, 1 year, or 2.5 years, the halfway point in the first term? There is no constitutional or statutory significance to the first 100 days of a president's term. So the 100-day milestone seems both arbitrary and artificial. But the idea that the first 100 days in power are crucial to a presidency begins with Franklin D. Roosevelt when he began his first term as US president in 1933. The US was in the grip of depression. Banks were closed and 1 in every 4 people was unemployed. In his first 100 days, FDR declared a bank holiday. He took America off the gold standard and he passed groundbreaking legislation targeting farmers, homeowners, and the unemployed. He also amended the Volstead Act, which had created prohibition. And once beer and wine hit the market, everybody loved him. Roosevelt's 100 days set an example for future presidents. They too now felt the need to use those first 3 months in office to take decisive action. And the idea is this: the more energetic you are in those first 100 days, the more you show that you mean business.
Yes.
But is an action-packed first 100 days a good idea? Not necessarily. This is because much depends on the state of the country you are taking on.
Yes.
How fast you can move when you actually begin as president depends on the state of the country you have taken over. Is it a troubled country, or is it a stable country despite a pandemic like Kenya is? Roosevelt took on a country that was struggling, and his bold actions worked. But there's a reason why only FDR stands out when it comes to a successful first 100 days in office. Many presidents have made monumental mistakes in their first 100 days. The question then is, should we disregard the first 100-day promises in the media?
Interesting. And I think we had the same thought today, Mrs. K. In Kibaki's first 100 days, he suspended all procurement officers in the public sector and they were briefly sent home. Then they came back. He then appointed the so-called anti-corruption czar, John Githongo, to reflect just how serious his administration was against corruption. Githongo's stint would later end in a dud. The first 100 days doesn't always work out well for everyone. John F. Kennedy ordered the ill-fated Bay of Pigs invasion 87 days into his presidency at the height of the Cold War.
Yes.
Gerald Ford gave Richard Nixon a full pardon for his involvement in the Watergate scandal, barely a month into his presidency. Now, widespread disapproval of Ford's decision to pardon his predecessor is thought to have contributed to his failure to win the 1976 election. Now, an energetic first 100 days shows, yes, you mean business, as Ms. K said, but the reality is that many fail to accomplish much in the first 100. Within his first 100 in office, Ruto wishes to establish a 50 billion hustlers fund, 50 billion shillings hustlers fund. How he will define the criteria of who is a hustler is still not known. Where these funds will come from in 100 days is also a mystery. Ruto wishes to allocate 50% of his cabinet to women, yet there is not even one prominent woman in his Kenya Kwanza alliance. He says he will implement the problematic 2/3 gender rule, yet 2 houses in 10 years failed to do so. Ruto says he will halt the selective investigation and prosecution of corruption cases. Yet what he really means is probably not fairer application of justice. He just wants to be the one that picks who the spotlight will be on.
Yeah.
RUTO controversially wants to appoint the 6 nominated judges that President Uhuru Kenyatta rejected, despite knowing their reasons, their integrity reasons not to do so. RUTO seems also to have selective amnesia on how slow things can get as regime change happens. In Kenyatta's first 100 days in 2013, even appointing cabinet secretaries and their principals took very long due to parliament vetting. And all the while, Kenya Kwanza still has not released their manifesto. My hunch is that it will be released very late so that Kenyans have very little time to scrutinize RUTO's plans for country.
Yeah.
Either way, mine is some advice for the successor for those first 100 days, and it is inspired by Niccolo Machiavelli. Severities should be dealt out all at once so that their suddenness may give less offense. Benefits ought to be handed out drop by drop so that they may be relished the more.
Yes.
I.e., do all the bad things quickly and at once, and the good things only slowly.
Only slowly. That's right. Now, the battle for the presidency is very much a warlike contest. And so today I would like to talk about war symmetry in the context of the August election. Symmetry in war is concerned with the state of equality between the contestants. And it is important because it enables us to predict the outcome. According to war studies, therefore, contests are characterized in one of 3 ways. They can either be symmetrical, balanced, or asymmetrical. For all of 2021 and for a better part of this year, William Ruto and the Hustler Nation had been in the lead. They had nailed the image, framing themselves as the party of change.
Yeah.
They had the money to back it up and a sticky message, the hustler narrative. Perception on the ground was that Ruto was unbeatable. Up until last month, therefore, the race between Raila and Ruto was what you call an asymmetrical contest. In war studies, an asymmetrical contest is one where one side has significant advantage over the other, such that if the warring parties were to have a head-to-head confrontation, the superior force would win 10-0. Usually, in this case, the weaker force tends to avoid that direct confrontation and revert instead to guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare allows the weaker side to be elusive and unpredictable. But much as Raila was down all of last year, rather than do guerrilla warfare, he chose to conserve his energy, knowing that he had a silver bullet in the name of Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka.
Nice.
Indeed, last month, the scales were tipped in favor of the underdog, when Raila locked both of them in the Azimio coalition. Baba's brilliance here has been to work smart rather than work hard. And in the study of war, once again, this is called force multiplication. And the basic principle of force multiplication is to find and deploy factors that will increase your power exponentially. A classic case in point of force multiplication using terrain was the Battle of Thermopylae, in which Leonidas and his 300 warriors held back the vastly more powerful Persian army of Xerxes by holding a pinch point where the mountains came very close to the sea. And in this case, Raila's force multiplier, it hasn't been terrain, it hasn't been technology, but it's been these political principles. And rather than attempt to go to the masses directly, as Ruto has done, he struck a deal with the Kamba and Gema principles. So what is now the status of our current contest? Without doubt, we are no longer witnessing an asymmetrical contest, but more a balanced contest. And by this, I mean both sides are now more or less equal in strength. The strengths of Ruto are cancelled out by the strengths of Azimio, and also the weaknesses of Azimio are equally cancelled out by the weaknesses of Ruto. In other words, even if Azimio will have a decisive victory, it is best to assume that August 2022 will still be a close contest.
Ah, close contest indeed. Force multiplication. I learned
Yes.
something today. So guys, who will give us our winning headline? I'm inclined to go with 100 days just because it gave
Same
us
here.
a lot of food for thought. Yeah,
Very
there we
good.
have it. Daily Nation gives us our winning headline. Thank you for joining us. Find me on social media. I'm on Twitter at Samasana.
Find me on TikTok at Mainawa Kagema.
And on Twitter at jkambuni.
And you can also find us on YouTube and TV, GoTV, Pine Creek there.